On the 24th of September 2011, Frank Leone arranged a gathering of alumni to honor one of its finest basketball coaches, Frank Raimondo. Frank was an alum from Fort Lee in the 40s and became a teacher and coach in the 50s and 60s. He was my head coach in 1955 and coached with John Marty the following year, where we were co-champs in the BCSL and Florida sectional state champs. Accounting for our success was talent, to be sure, but it was exploited by the exceptional coaching of Marty and Raimondo, who knew exactly how to motivate and coordinate our team's capabilities. Meeting with my old teammates, some of whom I had not seen in over 50 years, was an emotional and rewarding experience. Kudos to Frank Leone for making it happen. The men who were at the reunion all seemed to be successful individuals who had led productive lives, and to a man were also touched and happy to be there. You could see it in their eyes and smiles and feel it in the grasp of each handshake, even though we couldn't always recognize each other without the name tags. There is definitely a lifelong bond that develops between teammates, second only, I think, to those who have shared the life and death experiences of war. When I got back home, I couldn't stop thinking about what a great moment it was. Retired from business for over 10 years, I took up a hobby, videography, and spent a great deal of time and money pursuing it. I decided I wanted to use that experience to chronicle the life and times of sport during the period covered by the reunion, a period sandwiched between the end of World War II and the beginning of the Vietnam War, often referred to as either the baby boomers or happy days, made popular by the sitcom. My hope is that later generations will have an understanding of where we were at that time and how the games we played have changed, yet in many ways still remain the same. Pictures will tell some of the story, but here and there, explanations are called for. The changes involve the rules and style of play, but the greatest revolution, undisputably, was the influence of black athletes that changed forever how our games were played after we graduated. For instance, rules and style changes in baseball are minimal. In our day, when we took the plate, our gloves were in the field, our helmets hadn't arrived yet, and our bats were made of wood. That's it. Other than that, high school baseball today is still pretty much the same. Basketball is another story. When we played, there was no clock, no three-point perimeter, and the lane where you could hang out under the basket was much narrower. Big guys, therefore, could easily grab rebounds and go back up for an easy layup. Fortunately, there were not many big guys around back then, but those that were hung out a lot. I think of George Mikan, who played for the old Minneapolis Lakers. At 6'10", Mr. Basketball made a living combining the animal and vegetable kingdoms by planting his feet in potting soil under the basket. No one at that time was big or strong enough to challenge him underneath. Jump shots did not appear until the late 40s and early 50s. The hook shot was very popular though, as were the one- and two-handed set shots. Set shots were released with both feet on the ground. Today, the only time you see that happen is on the foul line. Back then, you could heave the ball from one side of the court to the other, and if it went in, you got 2 points. It wasn't hard to figure out your chances for success were better if you took the shot from close in. Therefore, there was no rush once you had the ball. The result? A more deliberate style of play and lower scores. In football, the emphasis was on the run. The single-wing offensive formation was designed for that purpose. But as it became clear a passing offense could yield more yardage, the T formation, where the quarterback was positioned under the center, began to replace the single wing, especially if the team had a player with a strong arm who could throw the ball with reasonable accuracy. Today, that is the most valuable commodity in football. Track was introduced in 1957, a year after I graduated, so I have little to add concerning the changes that came to track and field, except that the dashes in high school were measured in yards rather than meters, and the long jump was called the broad jump. The explosion of black athletes starting in the 60s was rooted in the exceptional talent and impact of just a few players in the 40s and 50s. In baseball, it was Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays. Football had Marion Motley and Jim Brown, who is still, in my opinion, the greatest running back of all time. Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain were the bomb in basketball. Jesse Owens made the case for track and field in the 30s. In many ways, their individual performances provided significant impetus to the civil rights movements and socially redefining legislation and attitudes in the 60s and thereafter. The impact of black athletes in all sports has been nothing short of astonishing and positive, except for those pedal pusher basketball pants. I hate them. High school sports in Bergen County was sparsely populated with black players back then. Our loss. What follows are some graphically embellished sports picture montages taken from Fort Lee's yearbooks in the years 1945 to 1960, vignettes of some of the great Hall of Fame players, and recognition of the championship teams from those years that meant so much to us who were there. My hope is it will mean something to my sports soulmates, as well as providing some context for those who see it but were not there.